Welcome, everybody. Hypnotic Sunday Service. I'm Evan Baumgartner, board certified hypnotist, who is not good at framing these shots. So, today I want to talk a little bit about TikTok. We're going to call it social media and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race. Now, yeah, I've seen a lot of people freaking out about TikTok being banned. And I gotta say, I'm happy about it. This is a good thing. And this is something people don't want to hear. People don't want to accept why it's a good thing. I've seen people bring up, oh, well, it's an attack on free speech. No, it's not. Because free speech, while under constant attack, you can still do the same stupid shit that you're watching on TikTok on multiple other platforms. You know, I could say everything I'm saying to you right now, wherever you're watching me. I could put this on TikTok. This is going out to multiple platforms as is. So it's not a free speech issue. Um, I haven't completely looked at the wording of the bill because I don't care. I'm just happy it's gone. So there could be something stuck in there because you can't trust politicians. You know, the 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 government's doing the right thing for the wrong reasons here, most likely. And that's really the best you can hope for from your government. Um, but as a hypnotist, yeah, I specialize in helping people overcome anxiety. That is where that was my entry into the world of hypnosis, was to overcome my own anxiety. And in our modern world, nothing undoes the work that I do with clients. Nothing creates as many issues with anxiety as social media does. This is proven. And the thing is, like, social media addiction is a very real thing. And if you're upset about TikTok being gone, being banned in the US, and you aren't somebody who makes money off of it. Like, if you are making money off of TikTok and the government comes in and takes away your income stream, then you have every right to be pissed off about that. I'm not going to fault you for that. But a lot of people that are upset, a lot of people who are going to the actual communist platform where you want to talk about where free speech isn't allowed. Oh boy. Look at that. Uh, these people are addicted to this thing that hasn't really been a thing since, like, until 2020, really, if we're honest about it. And even then, like, it didn't really hit critical mass until, like, after the pandemic, when it became so huge that it was impossible to really ignore if you were somebody that did business online. But let's be honest about the reasons we're upset about it. If it was actually taking money out of your pocket, yeah, that's a legitimate reason to be upset. However, it's still a good thing that it's gone because it is incredibly harmful. The way it works is it hijacks people's dopamine centers. It gives them this thing where they're doing the endless doom scrolling on there and they're going from one thing to another. It's shortening their attention spans. They're only taking in like a few seconds of things. Like we're talking sound bites, and then they're on to the next thing. They're looking for that next rush, that next hit. So when somebody is like really bemoaning the loss of this platform, you have to look at that as and if this is you, if you're really upset about it, take a hard look in the mirror because this is addictive behavior. It's the way you would expect a drug addict or an alcoholic to act if you're to cut them off from their supply. And to say that social media isn't harmful when it has that brings out that sort of reaction in people when they're not able to get on it, that is really fucking you up. And that's the thing about social media is we don't even realize it's happening or it's happened. And there's so many people and there's so much stuff that we're forced into using it essentially to fully participate in society in a lot of ways. I'm on social media. Why? I run a business. I'm here. I'm sending my message. This is how I help people with anxiety. I do this and that. I'm a hypnotist. I wouldn't be making these videos. I wouldn't be here talking to you if there wasn't that business aspect to it, though. If there wasn't so many people that I could reach to let them know how I can help them, by being on here. That's the only reason I'm on here. And with making these little videos and stuff, I found a way to have fun with it. And there is something, to be said about just, yeah, I'm gonna pop online and I'm gonna speak my mind about an issue that feels good. I mean, I don't need a business to do that, but that's my incentive. And I'm incredibly transparent about that. So but what I see from people is that fear of missing out. Oh, what everybody's on here and I need to know what other people are doing and all of this, and it just creates a negative feedback loop. Instagram is one of these that's like terrible about it. Because you see these curated lives and all these things and it looks so perfect and blah blah blah, and then people look at their own lives and they look at, oh well, this isn't perfect like that, why can't I do that? And then it sends them into this spiral. And if you're on social media, you have encountered that, at some point. It causes us to doubt ourselves, if we're on it too much. And the other thing is like it starts off, oh well, I'm bored, I'm waiting on something, I'm just gonna check this. Social media is designed to be polarizing because it wants to keep you engaged with it. People that are successful content creators on social media have found a way to game the algorithm to make it jump out at their audience and make them watch it, hopefully for more than like 2 or 3 seconds. so they can sell whatever. And this is by design, because when it comes to our behavior, if we look at things, everything that we do boils down to one impulse, the same impulse that every living thing has. That's survival. And we are social creatures. We communicate. We have developed language where we can work together with people. We need our people around us. While there are those of us who do great with solitude, that's not the majority of people. Majority of people can't be alone with their thoughts for more than 5 minutes, it seems like, especially these days, because of, I think, what social media has done to them. But we're social creatures, and we succeed by working together and building and creating things. And we do that because we get something. It gives us more resources, so it makes survival easier. And the thing is, when it comes to survival, like, think about anxiety. This is a defense mechanism. It's a survival mechanism. It says there is an imminent threat. Fight, flight, freeze. What is going to keep me safest? And usually it's moving you away from that situation. Withdraw from that, And in society today, we have it fires off inappropriately, where we get that reaction when it doesn't seem like it needs to be. And like something has hijacked that part of our brain. But that's kind of like part of that's the world we live in, which is great because, hey, it's good to be that safe, where thinking about a work meeting or something gives you that kind of anxiety versus a saber-toothed tiger jumping out and eating you when you're trying to gather food, So we see but it's an emotion, right? And the emotion of fear, the anxiety is part of it, drives our behavior. It causes, okay, what do I do now? Fight, flight, freeze. Yeah. All of our emotions do this. They inform us of what we're experiencing, so then we can make a decision. And a lot of times if we just go on autopilot, we're going to be stuck in the same place. We're never going to make positive changes in our life because, again, survival is associated with safety. And when it comes to our subconscious, it's going to stick with the devil. It's going to keep you in the same place, and it knows you better than you know yourself. It knows everything. It knows exactly what buttons to push. So it's going to do whatever it can, if it's not on board with what you want to accomplish, to keep you stuck in the same place. Because it wants to avoid the uncomfortable emotions. Or it will bring them up to keep you from moving outside of that box into the unknown, because the unknown is scary. The unknown is dangerous to the subconscious. It's not necessarily dangerous, but it's, again, the devil. So when it comes to social media, it wants to keep you engaged. It wants to keep you in that place. It wants to keep you on that platform. I'm going to show you something that's going to make you angry, and you're going to comment on that. You're going to go and tell me, how pissed off you are at me for saying it's good that TikTok is gone. You're going to comment on that. It's going to show you something that's going to make you laugh, that you are then going to send to your friends, who are then going to go onto the platform, who then will get sucked in to whatever the algorithm starts showing them to try to keep them there. That's what it does. And it does it like one thing after another. You will see something that will completely make you angry, and then the next, something will make you go, "Oh, that's sweet," and then something that will make you laugh, and then right back to angry again. It switches your emotional states super, super fast in a way like we're not built to keep up with that. And what happens when that's going on, because again, our subconscious wants safety, it wants stability. It's all tied to survival. But when it's doing that, you're in this place where it's like, oh my God, I'm going back and forth here. It's creating cognitive dissonance. It's doing all, and you just want it to stop. You're overloaded. And because you want it to stop, you will do anything to make it stop, to get back to a baseline. That's when they put an ad in. Go buy this. Do whatever we're asking you to do. Because when you're in that state, when you're in a highly emotional state, when you're emotionally aroused, one way or the other, like pleasure or anger or pain, whatever, you are more open to suggestion. Period. That's why with hypnosis, we want to activate the problem state that we're there to resolve. We need to bring it up because you feel it in the body, and then we can resolve it. Then we can neutralize it. But we have to have it there first in order to know that it's gone. Whereas social media wants to bring it up and then bam, hit you with an ad. What do you think of other platforms who also gives us content to view nonstop? I don't see a difference between TikTok and Reels, Shorts, etc. Thank you, Christina. That's a great question. It's all the same, really. To me, there isn't really a difference between like Facebook and TikTok and Twitter, X, Instagram, all of that. They are all doing the same thing. The thing is, TikTok did it better. It was, I think, more weaponized to hit you with that nonstop stuff, to keep people mindlessly scrolling, and they would mindlessly scroll. I question if TikTok would have been as effective if it came earlier, when we still had longer attention spans. I don't think that it necessarily would have caught on as much, or it might have taken longer. But if we look at that, the other platforms, they are all doing essentially the same thing. You know, that's why I say social media is bad for people in general, because we don't use it responsibly. You know, it's great to be able to have a conversation or to connect with friends over long distances, but we're not looking at, we don't fully understand how it affected us psychologically and how that could be weaponized against us. So when it comes to other platforms, that give us content nonstop, they're doing that same thing. It started with let's say radio. I mean, you had newspapers, kind of mass media for sending a message out, but that wasn't nonstop. You put it down, you walk away from it. Radio, that was on, all it was sending out signals. Okay, that's one way. Then we move into TV, and TV very much was the OG of making us stupid and pulling us in and getting you hooked on watching things. Think about, like, okay, here's, oh, what's going to happen? A big dramatic scene, and now we're into commercial break. You're sticking to the TV. You're watching the ads because you're waiting to get back to the show to see what happens, and you don't realize that you're taking all this in. Buy a car. Go ask your doctor for these drugs that are going to make you sicker. it hits you and it influences us. But that's child's play compared to what we deal with now. And then we saw it with MySpace. That was the first big sort of mass consumption social media platform. I mean, yeah, there were forums and stuff, but it wasn't the same as when MySpace came. But here's the thing about MySpace: it gave people too much flexibility to do their own thing. It was an infant. Social media was at that time. It didn't know it. Then you had Facebook, which was this thing. Oh, look, and it's so much cleaner. You couldn't do all the animated stuff on the internet. It kept it the same. And then Facebook really started, once they had a large user. Okay, now let's really get to work and screw with people's brains. And the reason I left social media a long time ago was because of Facebook. They got in a spot of trouble with the EU because it turned out that they were changing the algorithm to show teenagers, and they were specifically testing this on teens. And this is the only reason they even got fined for it in the EU. It would have been fine if they're doing it to adults, which I'm sure they were, but they wanted to see how it would work with teenagers. So they would alter the algorithm and show them like the incredibly polarizing stuff and then an ad. And they wanted to see which was more effective at getting teens to click on ads. They were like filling news feeds of teenagers with stuff that would make them depressed, so they would click on an ad. That's fucking evil, period. And that is how social media works, regardless of if you use it for business or not. How I use it for business: I'm here, I'm on multiple platforms right now telling you all about this. That doesn't change what it is at its core, and that's a weapon. If you don't know about it, if you don't know how to use it responsibly, if you don't know what it's attempting to do to you. But between that and then like Uber had all this stuff that would have gotten them completely banned from the App Store where they were siphoning data, I'm like, that's it, I'm out. I deleted the Uber app, closed my account in there, and then I deleted my Facebook account, deleted all my social media accounts, and I was done. And I was happy. And I know I felt so much better about things. And no, I wasn't as connected with a lot of stuff that was going on, but it didn't really matter because I was still connected to people. I just do things in the real world. I didn't have to worry about that. You know, make things, do other stuff, live like you did before this was there sucking your time. And it wasn't until I started this business that I went back on Facebook, and it was kind of out of necessity to have a presence and just doing that. If you're a business owner, you have to use social media. Like that's just it. If you're able to get away without doing it, you've either been doing it for a very long time, or you have a very specific sort of niche going, and that's great. But the majority of us, especially like if you're starting a business, you need to let people know you exist. And unfortunately, this is the best way for us to do that still. Instagram. A lot of women use Instagram and they see all these, perfect lives on there, and it creates a lot of anxiety and a lot of FOMO and a lot of dissatisfaction with their own lives that then people will come to a hypnotist about. Would that exist if you weren't being bombarded with the messages that you weren't good enough, that you need to buy these products to do that, or your life isn't as picture perfect as somebody who's carefully curating their feed and what they post on there so they could drive you to their OnlyFans page? I don't think so. So it's all bad at the end of the day. But TikTok was worse because of how good it was at what it did. Oh, the other thing with, if you want to go way back, if we look at Twitter in 2010, 2011, what happened then? That was the Arab Spring. Throughout Northern Africa, Middle East, we saw all sorts of protests, revolutions happen. Gaddafi in Libya was overthrown. We had like Yemen, Egypt, all of that. It was all organized and amplified and carried out via Twitter. This was the end of like the internet as like a fun place where you could just do whatever. This was when, okay, we have our proof of concept. It can be used for this. Now we have to lock it down. And then you started seeing a massive consolidation of things onto certain platforms. And a desperate need for governments all over the world to control what people were saying, what information was getting out on those platforms. And I'm not just slagging off the US government, because every government in the world is going to see that and they're going to want to do the same thing. Some governments like China, where you don't have freedom of speech because it's run by a communist, they are going to be a lot more cruel about it. Because they don't have to play by the same set of rules that we do in an open and free society, as open and free of a society as there can be. So once you see that social media was used to topple governments and incite revolutions, it's not just a place for sharing cat memes anymore, for arguing about stupid celebrity gossip. It's a lot more than that. And it's something that has to be carefully controlled, because again, it's a weapon. It can be used for that. So then you have TikTok coming in, which is, and the big thing, even if it comes back, what was really dangerous about TikTok was the algorithm, was how it would find what people wanted and push that to them to keep them on there in a way that we haven't seen any other platform do. No other platform has been able to do that. When you have things, you have copycats like, Meta did their reels, YouTube did shorts. Here's where for short form vertical content. And those are, there isn't that much of a difference between those and TikTok. As far as like the operation, I would make shorts for YouTube from videos like this, where I'm just talking. That's going out to Facebook. That's going out to Instagram. That's going out to YouTube. That's going out to TikTok. Boom, send it everywhere because the format was the same. But it was the algorithm and it was how like the apps interfaced with things that was really what was driving it. And that sort of like, here's something really short, boom, on to the next one, on to the next one, on to the next one. And like TikTok started, it was like 10 seconds. You had 10 seconds of video to do that. And then they started upping it. And so it was a way to get people addicted and get them in there and do that. But then, again, this was something that is controlled by communist China. It's controlled by the CCP. And not as much as like the alternative is, which is like the blatant communist propaganda app with no free speech, with God forbid you talk about anything that they don't like, boom, that's it. But if we're looking at how social media companies interact with the intelligence apparatus of different governments, we've seen here how much of an influence our government had on what Facebook, what Twitter was sending out, what Google, YouTube would show you, how they would bury stories, how they would prevent sharing of certain articles on there. That happened. That is a free speech violation right there. That government can't do that here. Now you have like Canada banning people from sharing news articles on Facebook, where it's like you can't share a link. Nope, no news articles on Facebook. That's a free speech thing right there. That's a free speech issue. But with TikTok, you had people so sucked into it, so addicted to it somehow, and they're only taking in a few things at a second, so it hits different than like reels and shorts, and that, where even though it's the same video on multiple platforms, is the way the interface was used on TikTok, and it was also the way the algorithm would deliver it to people that would be different. So even if and when TikTok comes back, and it probably will come back, but like the thing they want is they don't want it to be owned by a company that is actively working with the intelligence wing of the Chinese government. And yeah, it's siphoning all sorts of user data. I think, there's probably stuff in, if the Uber app was able to siphon tons of information that they weren't supposed to be able to have access to, and they didn't get completely kicked off the App Store. Oh, and that's the other thing. Facebook. This is what when I originally deleted it, it turned out that they would, if you gave them access to your photo album to post a photo, they would scan and upload thumbnails of your entire photo library. Any picture you had on there, they would have a very low resolution thumbnail of it. They were taking these were not pictures that you were posting. These were maybe things that you never intended on posting that were just there. Facebook was hoovering it all up. Why? I mean, there's probably a lot of reasons, but the big reason, the one that we can actually point at, is that with that low resolution thumbnail, when you did share a photo, it would seem like it was posting just a little bit faster than any other app would. Oh, wow. Why did that photo upload so fast to Facebook and let me share it so quickly instead of waiting and waiting? Is because they already had like half the data and they were just doing that. That's not cool. And that's when I deleted it. So who knows what TikTok was doing? Yep, Jeremy, choose not to use it because it's addicting. Absolutely. And people don't realize it, don't realize how addictive it is. But when it comes to like, okay, is this actually a threat to national security and that sort of thing? Well, yeah, if it's addictive, again, and it's influencing your emotions and it's able to blast a message to you to influence you, because this is what it comes down to on social media is influence. Yeah, and getting people into that right mind state where they're open to suggestion. Like, people look at hypnotists and be like, oh, mind control. It's like, no, this shit's actual mind control. This is what it really looks like. This is what it really looks like. Not what we do. We're deprogramming people. We're breaking them out. But yeah, if you think about that, where it's able to get who knows what kind of information that we're completely unaware that it's siphoning from this, not just like location data, but like anything else. But I mean, if you're a high-ranking government official, you have access to secure areas and things like that. The sort of location data that these things can give, that's definitely going to be a threat to national security if it's on your phone. Opening you up to being influenced one way or another, that's a danger. And again, they let it slide with like Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all of that, because they control it. These are Western companies. Whereas with a communist government, any communist government, they want to destroy democracy. They want people on board with their bullshit. They don't want freedom. They want control. They will point out everything that seems bad using what social media does in our society to sell things. You know, like, no, your life isn't perfect, but hey, guess what? The McRib is back. Come down, get one, go to Toyotathon. You know, they're like, no, you don't need democracy. Burn the Constitution. So it becomes a lot more dangerous, yeah, to a free and open society to do that. I mean, anytime you have things consolidating the way that we have with social media, it's a danger to democracy. It's a danger to freedom. But TikTok, the goal was absolutely to destabilize society, destabilize Western society, increase the influence that the Communist Party could have on our lives. And they already have too much influence on our lives. And because they're using capitalism against us as a sort of judo. I'm not going to go into all of that. Is it just about social media, but it's absolutely dangerous. And the thing is, yeah, you can use it for positive things. If you're watching me now, you're using it for a positive thing because you're trying to learn something, and usually, you want to overcome something, and you want to learn how a hypnotist can help you do that. Great, tons of stuff on my YouTube channel all about that. But if we want to look at like social media specifically, and yeah, like I said, I'm on here to run my business. I'm getting something from it. But if we treat it like a weapon, like a gun is just there. It's in the hands of who's using it and what are they using it for. Are you using it to eat, or are you using it to harm people because you are a harmful person? And but the thing is, you don't give a toddler a gun, a loaded gun that they don't know what it is, and just let them run off and play with it. And that's what we've done with social media. Think of us like we don't know the impacts of this. 20 years ago, this didn't exist. You know, now it does. And now look at how anxious, look at how upset people are. And there's a lot of good reasons for that. But I want you to look at your reaction when you think about like not being able to use social media. Whether it's TikTok, or if you think about how would you feel if you just didn't have Facebook anymore, if you didn't have these apps on your phone. And if that's something that creates a sense of dread, then you need to stop and you need to ask yourself, why is that? Why do I feel this way about something like this that shouldn't matter? Or you should just go on. Like, oh, well, I need to talk to people. You got a phone. We have messaging apps. Long distance calls, that sort of thing. It's not an excuse anymore. You can message anybody in the world for free without having to be on Facebook. So what is it really that bothers you about it? And that's something that's really hard to look at. And that's something that's really hard to admit to ourselves. But I think it's really important that we do. Especially if there are places in our lives that we want to change, that we want to improve. We need to understand ourselves first. We need to understand that there is a reason that we're reacting the way that we do. two things. That something is driving those emotions. And I know I say a lot of times the why doesn't matter. And it doesn't. Like, we don't need to know it, like the exact biochemical reaction that social media generates in the brain in order to change it, you know? I don't need to know how to build a combustion engine in order to drive a car. But I am aware of how it functions, how the mind functions, how emotions play a huge part in this. And in order for us to change things that we want to change, in order to have the life that we want, being able to recognize that, being able to recognize how our emotions drive our actions and how we respond to our emotions is a very important thing to do. And sometimes that requires stepping away from something so you can get to a place where you can have a baseline. If you're on social media all the time and you're doom scrolling through Facebook, through Instagram, through TikTok, through whatever, that's already changing your baseline. Because again, it's an addiction at that point. So if you step away from it and you see, well, all right, why is my body reacting like this? Why am I shaking like a drug addict going through withdrawals? That's going to tell you something. So understand that about social media and be confident with yourself and your ability to step away from it and not let it control you, even if you do have to use it for work. There are ways, there are ways around it, but we shouldn't be so upset anytime one of these things goes away. Anytime a social media platform gets shut down, that's a cause to celebrate.